Desmond Hayes was 44 years old, and until that Saturday night, he thought he just had a rough marriage to fix. He was an electrician, steady and overlooked, married 16 years to a woman who told her friends she'd settled for him. He never argued back, never raised his voice, just kept signing the back of every lottery ticket the moment he bought it, the way his mother taught him, a habit his wife never once noticed. That night, Tasha looked him dead in the eye and told him to pack his things, her voice electric, almost giddy, like she already knew something he didn't. She called the marriage over, said she deserved better. What she didn't say was why she suddenly couldn't stop smiling. Desmond grabbed a bag and walked out without a fight, his wallet still in his pocket. Inside it, a signed ticket worth $130 million. She had no idea what she'd just thrown away. And in 3 days, she was about to find out exactly whose name was on it. Before we jump into the story, comment where in the world you are watching from and subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you need to hear. The kitchen smelled like the tail end of a long week. Leftover rice on the stove. A dish towel hanging crooked off the oven handle. The small TV on the counter playing the local news at low volume. Nobody really watching it. Desmond Hayes pushed through the back door at 6:30, still carrying the weight of the day in his shoulders. His work boots were dusty at the toes. His navy work shirt had a streak of grease near the collar from crawling through a ceiling panel that afternoon. He was 44 years old, built solid, with hands that were calloused and sure. The hands of a man who knew how to fix things. He set his tool bag down by the door, rolled his neck once. Then he reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out a small rectangle of paper. A lottery ticket. Fresh from the corner store 2 blocks from the job site, same as every Friday. He didn't make a production out of it. He just walked to the counter, uncapped the pen sitting beside the notepad they used for grocery lists, and signed the back of the ticket in clean, clear letters. Desmond L. Hayes. Then he wrote the date underneath. It was something his mother had done every single time, without fail, for as long as he could remember. She'd press the ticket flat on whatever surface was nearby. A kitchen table, a car hood, the top of a mailbox, and sign it before she did anything else, before she even checked the numbers. "A ticket ain't yours till your name's on it, baby," she used to say. "Don't matter what numbers come up if you can't prove it belongs to you." She'd been gone 6 years now, but the habit stayed. It felt like keeping a small piece of her close. He tucked the ticket into his wallet, behind his contractor's license. He hadn't told Tasha the numbers he'd played. He rarely did anymore. This week he'd used her birthday, October 14th, along with a few others. He wasn't sure why. Some quiet reflex toward her that he hadn't fully let go of yet. Tasha was at the kitchen table. She didn't look up. She was leaned over her phone with both elbows on the table, her reading glasses pushed up on her nose, her dark hair pulled back in a loose knot. She was still in her work clothes from the salon, a black fitted top, gold earrings catching the overhead light. Even at the end of a long day, Tasha Hayes looked put together. She had always cared about how things looked. Her thumb moved fast across the screen. A small smile crossed her face. Then she glanced up, registered Desmond standing there, and the smile shifted into something neutral. "Hey," she said, eyes already back on the phone. "Hey." He opened the fridge, moved a takeout container aside, and found the pitcher of water. "How was the shop?" "Fine. Busy." A pause. Mrs. Carpenter came in and talked for 2 hours straight. "My feet are killing me." Desmond poured a glass and drank half of it standing there. "You eat? I'll heat something up in a minute." He nodded and moved toward the hallway to clean up. He was almost out of the kitchen when her phone buzzed on the table and she picked it up fast, too fast, and turned the screen slightly away from the room, not toward the wall, just angled, just enough. He didn't say anything. He went and showered. Over dinner, she mentioned the trip. "Oh, I meant to tell you." She was picking at her rice, not really eating. Keisha and Monique want to do a little getaway next weekend. Just a few days. Probably Charlotte or somewhere like that. Desmond looked up from his plate. Charlotte. Or Greenville. We haven't decided. Where are y'all staying? She shrugged one shoulder. Probably a hotel. Nothing crazy. Just some girl time. I need it. He didn't push. They'd had those conversations before. The ones where pushing too hard turned into something bigger than either of them wanted to deal with on a Thursday night. Or a Friday. Or any night lately. But something small moved through him. A quiet, formless thing. Keisha worked every other weekend at the salon. Monique had a toddler at home. A spontaneous overnight trip didn't quite fit either of them. He let it sit there in his mind without turning it over too much. Not yet. Later, he was reading on the couch when her phone buzzed again from the bedroom. A few seconds passed. Then he heard the soft click of the bedroom door. He turned a page he hadn't actually read. When Tasha came back out 20 minutes later, she was brighter somehow, more energized, like something had lifted off her. She mentioned she was tired and headed to bed early, and there was a looseness in the way she moved, almost like relief. Desmond watched her go. He thought about the job he had Monday morning, a panel upgrade for a new client. He thought about the estimate he still needed to write up. He turned off the lamp and went to bed, leaving the unread book on the cushion. The house was quiet. Tasha lay beside him, her back to him, her breathing slow and even. He stared at the ceiling. He thought she seemed stressed. He hoped she was okay. Desmond was 40 feet up in a scissor lift when he heard it. The radio on the job site sat on top of a toolbox down below. A beat-up little thing with a cracked antenna that Marcus, his apprentice, kept rubber-banded together. It played a mix of old R&B and local news all day. Desmond barely listened to it anymore. It was just part of the noise, like power tools, like traffic outside the building, like the hum of the panel he was currently wiring. Then, the announcer's voice cut through everything. And the winning numbers for last night's tri-state jackpot drawing, now confirmed at $130 million. Desmond's hand stopped moving. Are as follows: 14, 22, 31, 41, 49. He set down his wire stripper, very slowly. His other hand found the edge of the lift platform. And the Powerball, 19. The numbers landed in his chest like a weight dropping from height. He stood there in the middle of a commercial ceiling, surrounded by conduit and junction boxes and the dry smell of drywall dust, and he went completely still. October 14th. That was how he'd started the sequence. The 14th, 10 to 14. He'd split them, played the 14 straight, then went up from there in the pattern his mother used to like. He hadn't thought about it much when he filled it out. Just a Friday habit. Just muscle memory and quiet feeling. He knew the numbers on that ticket by heart. He always did. He stood there another few seconds. Then he reached into his pocket for his phone and started to pull up the lottery site, and stopped himself. Not here. Not on a lift in the middle of a job, with Marcus 15 feet below asking him something about a 20-amp circuit. He needed to sit down somewhere quiet. He needed to see the numbers on paper, next to the ticket, in his own hands. He needed to be sure. "Yeah, go ahead with the 20-amp, he called down, his voice completely even. "Run it to the secondary panel like we talked about." He picked his wire stripper back up and went back to work. Tasha was at the front desk of the salon when the radio behind the shampoo bowls caught her attention. She'd half heard the jackpot number, 130 million, and felt that passing little thrill that everyone feels before they remember they don't have a ticket. Except she'd seen a ticket that morning. She'd noticed it on the kitchen counter while she was making coffee, just sitting there before Desmond moved it. She'd glanced at it the way you glance at anything lying around the house. Idle, automatic. She remembered a few of the numbers. Not all of them, but enough to feel something pull tight in her stomach now. She grabbed her phone and stepped into the back room. She pulled up the lottery results, read them, closed her eyes, tried to remember what she'd seen on that ticket, the 14. She remembered that, and she thought she'd seen a 31. Her hand started shaking. She didn't wait. She didn't think. She hit the contact at the top of her recent calls, the one she had saved under a simple, careful name, and pressed the phone to her ear. He picked up on the second ring. "You hear what I just heard?" Her voice came out in a rush, low and electric. Bryce's voice was smooth, even in surprise. "Tell me," she told him. By the time she finished, she was pacing in a circle between the supply shelves and the back door, her free hand pressed against her collarbone. Tasha. The way he said her name. Slow. Savoring. "Baby, if those numbers are right, they're right." She wasn't sure. But she felt sure. That was enough for right now. "We've been waiting long enough, haven't we?" "Haven't I waited long enough?" There was a beat of silence on his end. Then, "Do what you need to do." She hung up. She stood in the back room for a full minute, breathing. Then she smoothed her shirt, walked back out to the front desk, and smiled at her next client coming through the door. She already knew what she was going to say to Desmond. He came home at 6:30, the same as always. His tool bag hit the floor by the door. He smelled like a long day. The ticket was still in his wallet. He hadn't verified the numbers yet. He'd told himself he'd sit down tonight, lay the ticket on the table, and go through it properly, without rushing. He didn't even get his boots off. Tasha was standing in the middle of the living room, arms crossed. That particular stillness about her that he'd learned, over 20 years, was not calm. "I need to talk to you," she said. He straightened up. "Okay." "I'm not happy, Desmond." Her voice was flat and decided, like she was reading from something she'd already written. "I haven't been happy for a long time, and I'm done pretending I am." He looked at her. "I want a divorce." She didn't blink. "And I need you to find somewhere else to stay. Tonight. 3 days." That's how long it took for the giddiness to settle into something that actually felt real. 3 days of picturing it, of making lists in her head. The condo in Buckhead, the car she'd always wanted, the trip overseas she'd been putting off since her 20s. 3 days of Bryce's voice in her ear every night, smooth and certain, already talking about their next move, their plans, their life. She'd earned this. That's what she kept telling herself. She'd spent 20 years in a house that felt too small, with a man who moved too slow. And now the universe had finally balanced the books. She almost felt sorry for Desmond. Almost. She walked into the state lottery claims center on a Tuesday morning, wearing her good blazer, the charcoal one she saved for occasions that mattered. She'd done her hair. She'd brought the ticket in a small Ziploc bag, the way the website said to, nestled inside a manila envelope like something precious, because it was. The waiting room was plain and government bland. Gray carpet, fluorescent lights, a poster on the wall showing a grinning couple holding an oversized check. Tasha took a number and sat down, the envelope on her lap, her heel bouncing against the floor. She was the third person called. The claims officer was a woman in her mid-50s with reading glasses on a lanyard, and an unhurried manner that Tasha immediately found irritating. Her name tag said Patricia. She took the envelope without ceremony, slid the ticket out carefully, and held it up to the light before setting it flat on her scanner. "And you are?" Patricia asked, fingers poised over her keyboard. "Tasha Hayes." She sat up straighter. "My husband and I, we're separated. The ticket came from our home." Patricia nodded like she'd heard that exact sentence before. She ran the barcode. The scanner beeped. Patricia looked at the screen. Then she looked at the back of the ticket. She was quiet for a moment. "Ma'am," she said, "I'm going to need to ask you a few questions about this ticket." Tasha felt her first small flicker of unease. "Okay. Can you tell me your full legal name?" "Natasha Renee Hayes." And the ticket holder you mentioned, your husband, his name? Desmond. Desmond Hayes. The unease was growing now, slow and cold, working its way up from her stomach. Why? What's the problem? Patricia turned the ticket over and set it on the counter so Tasha could see it. There it was. On the back, in that same dark, deliberate ink Desmond used for everything. His checks, his contracts, his work orders, his name. Desmond A. Hayes. And below it, a date. Not from last week. Not from the day before he left. Weeks before any of this. Tasha stared at it. There's a signature already on file, Patricia said, her voice not unkind but absolutely unmovable. In the state of Georgia, a lottery ticket becomes the legal property of whoever signs it first. The name on this ticket is Desmond Hayes. The date predates the current drawing period. That can't be right. Tasha heard her own voice go thin. That ticket was in my house. I found it in our... It was sitting right there on the counter. Ma'am, I lived there. I'm his wife. She leaned forward. We're married. Doesn't that mean anything? Patricia folded her hands on the desk. Patient. Final. It means you may have grounds for a conversation with a family law attorney, she said. It does not mean you are the owner of this ticket. Ownership follows the signature, not the address. That's state law. The fluorescent lights buzzed above her. Somewhere behind her, a man coughed. Tasha became very aware of the other claims officers at their stations, the couple 2 windows down, filling out paperwork, glancing over. The security guard near the door who had stopped looking at his phone. I need to speak to a supervisor, she said. Her voice cracked slightly on the last word. You're welcome to, Patricia said, but the statute won't change. She made it to her car before her legs went fully unsteady. She sat in the driver's seat with the door closed and both hands on the wheel and stared through the windshield at the parking lot. A woman pushed a stroller past. A man loaded grocery bags into a trunk. The world going on, completely indifferent. $130 million. She had thrown him out 3 days ago. Her phone was in her hand before she'd made a conscious decision to pick it up. She pressed call. He answered fast, like he'd been waiting. So? Bryce's voice was bright, expectant, ready to celebrate. It has his name on it. She heard how flat she sounded. Dead flat. It was already signed. They said it's his. Legally, it's his. Silence. Then, his name was already... Yes. Her jaw was tight. Weeks ago. He signed it weeks ago. More silence. She could hear Bryce breathing, recalculating. Okay, he said finally, and now his voice had shifted into something cooler, more careful. So you need to get back in front of Desmond. His phone buzzed at 4:17 in the afternoon. He was sitting at Denise's kitchen table with a cup of coffee going cold in front of him. The name on the screen said, Tasha. He let it ring twice. Then he picked up. Hey. Her voice came through smooth, almost breezy, like she was calling to chat. How are you doing? You settling in okay over there? I'm all right, Desmond said. Nothing more. Good. That's good. A pause. The kind that wasn't really a pause. It was a setup. Hey, I wanted to ask you something. Have you, I don't know, heard anything about the lottery? The big one they announced this weekend? He looked at the table. Denise was sitting across from him, arms folded, watching his face. She'd heard the question through the phone. He could tell by the way one eyebrow went up, slow and deliberate, like a door opening. Otis sat at the far end of the table, reading glasses on, a yellow legal pad in front of him. He didn't look up, but he went still. The lottery? Desmond kept his voice easy, unconcerned. Nah. Why? No reason. Too quick. I heard something on the radio, that someone local won. And I thought, with the tickets you buy, you might have, I don't know, just curious. I haven't checked anything. He let that sit. Then, you think we won something? A small, strained laugh from her end. I mean, I don't know. Maybe. Probably not. Another pause. You still have your wallet with you? Your stuff? I do. Okay. Her voice had gone tighter, but she was working to hide it. Okay, well, just check when you get a chance. And if anything, if something comes up, call me, all right? We should talk. Sure, he said. I'll take a look. Okay. She exhaled. Okay. Take care of yourself, Des. He ended the call and set the phone face down on the table. The kitchen was quiet. Denise unfolded her arms. She went to the claim center. That's my read, Desmond said. And now she's fishing to see what you know. Denise pulled her laptop closer. She wouldn't be calling about the lottery otherwise. She'd have just let it go if she thought it was nothing. Otis finally looked up from his legal pad. He pulled his glasses off and set them down with the particular care of a man who was about to say something exact. Here's where you stand, he said. That ticket was signed and dated by you before she ever initiated separation proceedings, before she asked you to leave, before anything. Under Georgia law, that signature establishes ownership at the time of signing. It doesn't matter that the ticket was in the home you shared. It doesn't matter that she found it and moved it. What matters is that your name was already on it, in ink, with a date, and that predates every event that followed. He tapped the legal pad. Her removing it from the house without authorization actually helps your position. It demonstrates she had no good faith belief of ownership. She had the ticket. She didn't have the right. Desmond absorbed that, slow and deliberate, the way he processed everything, and the separation, the timing of that. Does that factor in? It strengthens you. She initiated it before you'd spoken to anyone, before any legal filings. This is your asset, not a marital one. Otis set his pen down. Your ownership is about as solid as I've seen. Desmond nodded. Denise looked at him over the top of her screen. Don't call her back with anything real, she said. Not yet. I know. She's going to keep pulling at this. Now that she knows it's his, yours, she's going to try to work an angle. I want to know what angle before we close any doors. She glanced at Otis, then back at Desmond. Let her talk. Let her make her case. The more she says, the more we know. And the more she says, Otis added, the more she establishes intent. The word landed cleanly in the room. Intent. Desmond looked down at his coffee. You think this was planned? More than the lottery? Denise's expression didn't change. I think I don't know yet, and I'd rather know before you say anything to her that closes off what we can find out. He thought about that. About Tasha's voice on the phone. The breezy tone that wasn't breezy. The careful way she'd steered toward the wallet, the ticket, without ever naming either one directly. All right, he said. We do it your way. At 9:44 that night, Desmond typed out a text to Tasha. Haven't checked yet. Been busy. We'll let you know if anything turns up. He read it once, sent it, turned the phone over. Across the hall, Denise's lamp was still on. He could see the thin strip of light under her door. He could hear the faint tap of keys, slow, methodical, the way she worked when she was following a thread. She was already pulling bank records, credit card statements, property filings, everything she could access without tripping any wires, building a picture, one document at a time, of what Tasha may have already set in motion. Whatever it was, she would find it. Patrice showed up at Denise's door at 10 in the morning. She hadn't called first. She was still in the oversized sweatshirt she'd slept in, hair pulled back without care, eyes red around the edges. When Desmond opened the door and saw her face, something in his chest pulled tight. Hey, baby girl. He kept his voice soft. She didn't say anything. She just stepped inside and hugged him, and he held on. They sat in Denise's living room, Desmond on the couch, Patrice folded into the armchair across from him with a mug of tea she wasn't drinking. Denise had made it without being asked, then settled herself quietly on the far end of the couch, giving the room space to breathe. I didn't know who else to come to, Patrice said. Her voice was steadier now, but only barely. I love Mom. I do. But I don't know. Something's been wrong for a while, and she won't talk to me about it, and She stopped, pressed her lips together. You don't have to explain it, Desmond said. Just tell me what you've got. She exhaled. About 2 months ago, I borrowed Mom's phone to call a friend. My battery was dead. She set the mug down on the side table. She handed it to me without thinking, and then went into the kitchen. And while I was dialing, a message came through. Desmond waited. The contact was saved as B. She glanced up at him. With a money bag emoji. The room went quiet. What did the message say? Denise asked. Even and calm. Patrice shook her head. I didn't read it. I didn't want to. But the name, I remembered it. And then a few weeks later, I was looking for my registration in her car. She always keeps paperwork in that center console. She picked at the edge of her sleeve. I found receipts, hotel receipts, 3 of them, different dates, all from the last 2 years. Desmond kept his face still. Inside, something was settling into place, not crashing down, settling, like a frame being straightened on a wall, revealing how long it had been crooked. The throwout hadn't been impulsive. It hadn't been the jackpot making Tasha reckless. The jackpot had just been the door she'd been waiting for. The exit she'd already furnished, already measured, already decided on. She just needed a reason to open it. Dad, Patrice was watching him. Are you okay? I'm okay, he said. And he meant it, more than she probably believed. 3 days later, Denise called them both into the kitchen. She had her laptop open and 3 printed documents arranged in a neat row across the table. The kind of arrangement that meant she was ready to walk through something in order and didn't want to be interrupted. Otis was already there, coffee in hand, legal pad open. Desmond sat down. Patrice was back at school. Let's go through it, Denise said. She pointed to the first sheet. 6 weeks before Tasha asked you to leave, the family home was quietly listed with a real estate broker through a limited service agreement. No sign in the yard. No public MLS post. Just a listing agreement, signed by her, authorizing a sale. She slid the document an inch toward him. She owns 50% of that house. She can't sell it without your signature. But she listed it anyway. She was setting the table. Desmond looked at the signature line. Tasha's handwriting. Neat and deliberate. Second, Denise moved to the middle sheet. 40 days before the separation, she applied for and received pre-approval on a personal loan. $30,000, secured against her salon revenue. She paused. She never drew it down. My guess is she was waiting to see the lottery money clear first. Why borrow at interest if you're about to get everything you need? Otis made a note. Third, Denise tapped the last page. Bryce Coleman. I pulled his public business filings, his real estate fund disclosures, and a string of complaints logged with the State Real Estate Commission over the last 18 months. She let that land before continuing. 3 separate clients filed informal complaints about delayed investment payouts. 2 more sent written requests for account statements that he never returned. His fund is structured as a private placement vehicle. Minimal oversight. Maximum trust from investors. She folded her hands on the table. He's been running short, covering holes, stalling people with promises. She looked at Desmond evenly. He wasn't just in love with your wife. He was broke and drowning and needed that jackpot to make the whole thing disappear before anyone looked too closely. The kitchen was very still. Desmond looked at all 3 documents. The house listing, the loan approval, the complaint log on Bryce Coleman. Every piece of it had been in motion long before Tasha raised her voice and told him to get out. So, we have the affair, Otis said, tapping his pen against the pad. We have premeditation, and we have Coleman's financial exposure. Yes, Denise said. Otis looked at Desmond. We don't move yet. No, Desmond agreed. We keep building. Denise closed the laptop. Every piece we add now is one less piece they can explain away later. We do this right. Desmond looked at the 3 documents one more time. Then he nodded. She knocked 3 times. Soft. Almost hesitant. Desmond heard it from the kitchen, where he was sitting with a cup of coffee and Denise's morning newspaper. He didn't move right away. He just listened. Denise answered the door. Tasha. Her voice was flat, not hostile, just flat. Hey, Denise. A pause. Is Desmond here? Desmond set his cup down and stood up. He came to the doorway between the kitchen and the front hall. Tasha was standing on the porch in a gray wrap dress, her hair done, her eyes wet at the corners. She looked like she'd been crying in the car on the way over. Maybe she had. Maybe she'd practiced it. When she saw him, her face crumpled a little. Des. Her voice broke just slightly on the word. I need to talk to you. He leaned against the door frame. Okay. Can we have a minute? Just us? Denise glanced at Desmond. He gave her a small nod. I'll be in the kitchen, Denise said, and walked away without another word. They stood in the front hallway. Tasha twisted the strap of her purse in both hands, something she always did when she was nervous. He remembered that. He remembered a lot of things. I made a mistake, she said. A terrible, stupid mistake. And I know you have every reason to close this door in my face right now, but I had to come. I had to say it to you in person. He didn't say anything. He let her fill the silence. I don't know what I was thinking. Her voice was soft, controlled, but her eyes kept searching his face for a reaction. I panicked. I got scared. I told myself I was unhappy, and I just blew everything up. Our home, our marriage. She pressed her lips together. You. I threw away you. Desmond studied her. The words were right. The delivery was close. But there was something underneath all of it. Something moving, like a current under still water. I still love you, she said. I do. He was quiet for a moment. Then, you hungry? We could get dinner tomorrow night. Somewhere quiet. Just talk. The relief that crossed her face was immediate. Too immediate. Yes, she said. Yes, I'd like that. He called Otis that afternoon. She came, Desmond said. How'd she look? Like somebody who needed something and wrapped it in an apology. Otis was quiet for a beat. You agree to see her? Tomorrow night. Dinner. Good. Otis's tone was even. Professional. Here's what you do. You listen. You ask easy questions about the future, about what she wants, where she sees things going. Keep it vague on your end. You're not agreeing to anything. You're just asking questions. A pause. And you're going to record all of it. Desmond already knew that part, but hearing Otis say it made it real. I'll send you the app, Otis said. Phone in your shirt pocket. She'll never know it's running. The restaurant was small, a neighborhood spot with low lighting, round tables, and a menu written on a chalkboard above the bar. Tasha had suggested somewhere nicer. Desmond had picked this place on purpose. No noise, no crowd. Every word would be clear. She was already seated when he arrived. Dress, perfume, the whole thing. She stood up when she saw him, like she was greeting someone she was trying to impress. They ordered. They talked. She told him again how sorry she was, how she'd been confused, how she'd let stress and fear drive her to do something unforgivable. Desmond nodded, asked a few questions. Nothing sharp, nothing that would make her pull back. Then, after the plates were cleared, he leaned forward and said quietly, If we did try again, what does that look like to you? What would you want? Tasha exhaled slowly, like she'd been waiting for that exact opening. I want us to be okay, she said. I want to fix what I broke. She looked down at the table. And honestly, Des, I think if we moved forward together, with what you have coming, we could really build something. Something real. Something better than what we had. He kept his face easy. What I have coming. The ticket. She said it carefully, like she was testing the ground underfoot. I mean, we were married when you bought it. Whatever happens with the lawyers, I think I'm still entitled to something. That's just the law. She looked up at him. I'm not trying to fight you over it. I'm saying, if we do this the right way, together, it doesn't have to be a battle. We both come out of it better. Desmond held her gaze. That makes sense, he said. She blinked, like she hadn't expected it to be that easy. He nodded slowly and picked up his water glass. Let me think on everything, he said. I just need a few days. She reached across the table and put her hand over his. Take whatever you need, she said. He drove straight to Otis's house. Otis met him at the door in a sweater and reading glasses. Desmond handed him the phone without a word. Otis pulled it up, put in one earpiece, and listened. About 90 seconds in, he stopped the playback. He pulled the earbud out. She said it clear, Otis said. Right on the record. Desmond nodded once. That's your leverage, Otis said. First real piece of it. The call came at 8:47 in the morning. Desmond was at Denise's kitchen table again. Same chair, same coffee. He picked up on the second ring. Daddy! Patrice's voice was tight, like she was trying to hold something together and not quite managing it. He sat up straighter. Hey, baby. What's wrong? I'm at Mom's. A shaky exhale. I came over last night to get some of my stuff from my old room, and she didn't know I was still in the house. She thought I'd left. He waited. Bryce was over. They were in the kitchen, and I heard her phone go off on speaker. He was talking to somebody, a friend, I think, and I heard him say, she stopped, steadied herself. He said, the second the money clears, I'm done. I've been carrying this woman for 2 years. That's long enough. Desmond was very still. He said that. His voice came out low and even. Word for word. A long pause. Dad, she was right there. I don't even think she heard it. She was laughing at something on the TV. And he was just standing right behind her saying all that. Her voice cracked at the edges. I don't even like Mom right now. But that was ugly. You okay? I wanted you to know. I know, he said. Thank you for telling me. You did the right thing. After he hung up, he sat for a moment with both hands wrapped around his mug. The coffee had gone cold. He didn't notice. He called Denise into the kitchen. She came in from the hallway with a folder already under her arm, like she'd been expecting the conversation to start any minute now. He told her what Patrice said. All of it. Denise listened without interrupting. When he finished, she set the folder flat on the table, opened it, and smoothed the top page with her palm. Then we're done building, she said. This is it. She walked him through the file the way she always did. Methodical, calm, nothing wasted. The winning ticket, signed and dated in Desmond's hand weeks before any of this started. The Lottery Commission's own records confirming the claim attempt and the rejection, Tasha's house listing and the pre-approved personal loan, both initiated before she ever asked Desmond to leave. The hotel receipts and the call logs Patrice had passed along, mapping out 2 full years of the affair with Bryce. The recording from the restaurant, Tasha's own voice, steady and clear, telling Desmond she believed she was entitled to the winnings and framing a reconciliation around access to his money. And at the back of the file, Denise's own work, 12 pages of financial records on Bryce Coleman's real estate investment fund, delayed payout notices, missing quarterly statements, a pattern of client complaints going back 14 months, each one vague but pointed in the same direction. Money collected, promises made, returns that never came. 2 of the clients in here, Denise said, tapping the page, are women from Tasha's own salon. They trusted him because of her. Desmond looked at the names. He recognized one of them. He told her that Jackpot money was going to fix everything, Denise said. His debts, his fund, his clients, all of it. He wasn't in love with Tasha. He was buying time. The room was quiet for a moment. "Does she know?" Desmond asked. "About the fund?" "No," Denise said. "She thinks he's successful. That was the whole point." They called Otis that afternoon. He drove over, reviewed the complete file at the kitchen table, and didn't say anything for a long stretch after he finished. Then he closed the folder and looked at Desmond. "This is clean," he said. "Your ticket ownership is airtight. Signed, dated, separation timeline fully documented. The recording gives us her motive on record. The premeditation on the house and the loan shows this wasn't a sudden emotional decision on her part." He set his hand flat on the back pages. "And this material on Coleman, if you want to act on it, I have a contact at the State Real Estate Commission. I also know how to make sure the right clients see the right documents, without anything coming back to you improperly." "And the divorce?" Desmond asked. "She gets nothing from the ticket," Otis said. "Not with what we have." Desmond nodded once. He looked at the folder for a moment. Just looked at it. All those pages, all those months of Tasha planning and Bryce scheming, and both of them deciding he was someone who wouldn't notice, wouldn't move, wouldn't matter. "All right," he said. "It's time." He called Tasha that evening from the back porch, the sun already low and orange through the trees. She picked up on the first ring. "Hey," she said, her voice cautious, hoping. "Hey." He kept his tone easy. "I've been thinking about everything. I think we need to get together and talk through next steps. The house, the finances, all of it. Get it handled properly." "Okay," she said. "Yeah. When?" 2 days. Otis's office. Bring Bryce." He paused just a beat. "He's involved in all this too." "Makes sense, he's there." A short silence on her end. "Okay," she said again, slower this time. "I'll have Otis send you the address." He hung up and stayed on the porch a while longer, listening to the quiet. Otis's office sat on the 3rd floor of a brick building downtown, the kind of place that felt serious the moment you stepped inside. Dark wood paneling, a long conference table with 6 chairs, framed diplomas on the wall, straight and evenly spaced. The only window looked out over the street below, and the morning light came through it flat and gray. Desmond was already seated when they arrived. He had been there for 20 minutes, long enough to settle, to breathe, to get still. He had a glass of water in front of him. Nothing else. Otis sat to his right, the closed folder on the table between them, looking like any other set of papers until it wasn't. Tasha came in first. She was dressed carefully. Hair done, earrings in, a blouse Desmond hadn't seen before. She was trying. He could see the effort in every detail. The way she carried herself, chin slightly up, like confidence she was working to maintain. Her eyes found him immediately, and she gave him a small, careful smile. "Hey," she said. "Hey," he said back. Easy, calm. Bryce came in behind her. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a sport coat over a collared shirt. He looked like money, or like someone who wanted you to think so. He gave the room a quick scan, the diplomas, the table, Otis, and his jaw tightened just slightly. Not fear yet, just alertness. The instinct of a man who understood rooms like this were rarely good news. He nodded at Desmond. Desmond nodded back. "Bryce, appreciate you coming." They sat. Tasha across from Desmond, Bryce beside her. Otis poured water from the pitcher on the table without being asked. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Tasha leaned forward slightly, lacing her fingers together on the table. "So," she said, "I think there's a way to handle all of this that's fair to everybody. We were married 11 years. Whatever happened between us personally, I think I'm entitled to—" "Let me stop you there," Otis said. Not unkindly, just clear. "We'll get to all of that. But Desmond wanted to lay everything out first, so we're all working with the same information. That fair?" Tasha glanced at Desmond. He gave her nothing, just waited. "Fine," she said. Otis opened the folder. He started with the ticket, slid a copy across the table, the front showing the winning numbers, the back showing Desmond's signature and the date. He explained the Lottery Commission's own documentation of the claim attempt, the rejection, the reason. Signed before the separation was initiated, Otis said. Sole legal ownership. There's no ambiguity there. Tasha's jaw shifted. We were still married when he bought it. You were. But that's not how lottery ownership works in this state. The signature controls. And the separation you initiated happened after the ticket was signed. He slid another page across. Which brings us to the timeline. He walked through it, piece by piece. The house listing, the pre-approved loan. Both initiated before Tasha ever asked Desmond to leave. Dates, documents, signatures in Tasha's own name. This wasn't a reaction, Otis said simply. It was a plan. Tasha's carefully composed expression started to crack at the corners. That's not... There's more, Desmond said. Quiet, steady. Otis placed the next set of documents on the table. Hotel receipts, call logs, 2 years of them, organized by date. Bryce went very still beside Tasha. Then Otis reached into the folder and produced a small recorder. He set it on the table and pressed play. Tasha's own voice filled the room. I'm not asking for everything, Desmond. I'm just saying, as your wife, I'm entitled to what's fair. Whatever you got from that ticket, I have a right to a share of that. The recorder clicked off. The room was silent. Tasha sat back in her chair. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. And finally, Otis said, pulling out the last section of the folder and setting it in front of Bryce. This is yours. 12 pages. Denise's work. Clean, organized, devastating. Bryce looked down at the top page. His expression didn't change at first. Then something moved behind his eyes. A quick, cold recognition. He reached out slowly and turned to the second page. 14 months of delayed payouts, Otis said. Missing quarterly statements, client complaints. 2 of those clients, as it happens, are women from Tasha's salon. Tasha turned her head sharply toward Bryce. What is he talking about? Bryce didn't answer her. He was still looking at the documents. He's talking about your fund, Desmond said, looking at Bryce directly now. The one you told your clients was growing. The one you needed the jackpot money to save before anyone looked too close. Tasha stared at Bryce. Bryce. He looked up from the pages. Something in his face had gone flat. You knew about this? She said. Her voice was starting to lose its shape. He didn't just know about it, Desmond said. That's why he was with you. The words landed like something physical. Bryce pushed back from the table, stood up. His chair scraped loud against the floor. I'm not doing this, he said. His voice hard now, stripped of all the charm. He looked at Tasha, and there was no tenderness in it. You want to know the truth? I've been waiting 2 years for that money to come through. That's it. That's all this was. He picked up his sport coat off the back of the chair. I'm not going down for your mess. And he walked out. The door closed behind him. The door didn't slam. That was almost worse. It just closed. A soft, final click. And then Bryce Coleman was gone. Tasha sat in the chair for a long moment. She didn't move, didn't speak. Her hands were still laced together on the table, exactly as they had been when she walked in with her careful blouse and her careful smile, ready to negotiate. Otis gathered the documents quietly. Desmond watched her. Take all the time you need, Otis said to her, professionally, not unkindly. She stood up. Her chair caught on the carpet, and she stumbled slightly, reached out and steadied herself against the table's edge. Then she walked out without a word. She sat in her car for a long time. The parking lot was half full. Other people moved through it. A woman in scrubs crossing to a silver sedan. 2 men in hard hats talking near a truck. Normal life, going on normally, completely unaware of what had just happened on the 3rd floor of that brick building. Tasha stared through the windshield. She had driven here this morning thinking she still had a card to play. Desmond was quiet and steady. Sure, but he was also a man who had loved her for 11 years. She had counted on that. Counted on the idea that when you've loved someone that long, you soften. You leave room. You let things get messy, because the history between you makes you human. She had not counted on the folder. She had not counted on him being that prepared. The recorder sat in her memory now, her own voice playing back. "I'm entitled to what's fair," said at a quiet restaurant where she had thought she was being strategic, where she had thought she was getting somewhere. And the whole time he had been sitting across from her, nodding calmly, letting her hand him everything he needed. She pressed her forehead against the steering wheel. Bryce was gone. He had looked at her at the end. She kept coming back to that look. Not regret, not apology, just flat, uncomplicated finality. That's all this was. 2 years, hotel rooms, nights she had spent convincing herself she was making the right choice, that there was something real waiting for her on the other side of her marriage. That's all this was. She sat up, started the car, then turned it off again. Upstairs, Desmond stood at the window. The gray morning light had shifted some. Not much. He watched the parking lot below without really meaning to, and saw Tasha's car sitting there, running, then not running, then still. "She's not going to move for a while," Otis said from behind him. "I know." Otis came to stand beside him. They both looked out for a moment. "You did well in there," Otis said. Desmond didn't answer right away. He wasn't thinking about doing well. He was thinking about the way Tasha's face had looked when she heard her own voice on that recorder. Not anger, not defiance, just the particular look of someone realizing, all at once, that the story they had been telling themselves about who they were didn't hold up anymore. He had not enjoyed that moment. He had needed it. Those were different things. "Let's talk about Bryce," he said. The call to Denise came that afternoon. Desmond kept it simple. He told her she was cleared to share the evidence file, all of it, with the 2 defrauded clients Otis had identified, and with Otis's contact at the State Real Estate Commission. "Already packaged," Denise said. He could hear the quiet satisfaction in her voice, the kind that came not from cruelty, but from precision, from a job done the right way. "Thank you," Desmond said. "Don't thank me yet. Thank me when the commission letter goes out." It took 6 days. The first 2 clients filed formal complaints with the commission within 48 hours of receiving Denise's file. The documents were organized, clearly sourced, and hard to dispute. A third client, someone Bryce had been managing for almost 3 years, filed a separate complaint the following day, after the first 2 clients reached out to him directly. On day 5, the State Real Estate Commission opened a formal inquiry into Bryce's license. On day 6, a civil attorney filed the first suit to recover lost funds. Tasha heard about it the way most people heard about things they didn't want to know. From someone else, secondhand, in pieces. A client mentioned it in the salon chair. A woman who had heard from a friend who had seen something online. "That investor, the charming one, the one with the fund, you know he's being sued now?" Multiple clients. Real Estate Commission is looking into it. Lost people's money. Tasha kept her hand steady on the woman's hair. She said, the way you do when you're listening without listening. But her eyes found themselves in the mirror above the station, and she looked at her own reflection for just a moment. The careful blouse was gone. She was wearing her work smock. The earrings she had chosen for that meeting at Otis's office were back in their box at home. Bryce's name was already circulating. Not loudly yet, but it was moving. Small-town professional circles had a way of carrying a bad name forward. 3 weeks later, Desmond's divorce was finalized. The signed, dated ticket stood uncontested in his name. Sole ownership. Tasha's documented premeditation, the house listing, the pre-approved loan, the recorded confession, The affair evidence had removed any ground she might have otherwise stood on. Otis walked Desmond through the final paperwork at the same conference table, same gray light, through the same window. Desmond signed where he was told to sign. The house equity transferred to him outright. The jackpot remained his. Tasha received nothing from the winnings. 11 years, and it ended with a pen and a date at the bottom of a form. The morning smelled like cut wood and fresh concrete. Desmond stood on the sidewalk in front of the building and just looked at it for a moment. The sign above the entrance was new. Mounted 2 days ago, the letters clean and straight. Hayes Electrical Contracting. His name, up on a wall, on a thing he had built with his own hands and his own time. It wasn't a skyscraper. It wasn't flashy. It was a solid, real building in a solid, real neighborhood. And it was his. Inside, he could hear voices, the clatter of a toolbox being opened, someone laughing at something. He had 6 apprentices now, young men and women between 18 and 23, most of them the first in their families to work a licensed trade. He had hired 2 of them fresh out of the city's vocational program. A third had knocked on his door with a handwritten letter and no experience and a willingness to learn that reminded him of himself at 20. He had given all 3 a chance. "You're just standing out here smiling at a sign," Patrice said from beside him. "I'm not smiling." "Dad!" She looked at him sideways. "You are absolutely smiling." He let it go. Maybe he was. Patrice had driven up that morning from campus, an hour and a half each way, just to be there for the opening. She was wearing his late mother's old watch. Desmond had given it to her the previous Christmas, and she wore it almost every day now. She said she liked the weight of it. She looped her arm through his, and they walked inside together. The main floor was busy. 2 apprentices were working on a commercial panel installation in the back room, supervised by Marcus, his lead electrician. A third was running conduit along the east wall, careful and deliberate, measuring twice. Desmond had said that on their first day. Measure twice, run once. His mother used to say something similar about most things in life. He stopped and watched the conduit work for a moment without interrupting. The young woman doing it, Keisha, 19 years old, quick and focused, had the right instinct. She adjusted her measurement without being told. He moved on. Let her work. Denise arrived around noon with food from the deli 2 blocks over, and a folder tucked under her arm, because Denise never went anywhere without a folder tucked under her arm. They ate at the work table in the front office. Desmond, Patrice, Denise, and Marcus. Loud, easy conversation. Stories from the job sites. Someone brought up a panel installation that had gone sideways the previous month and ended in a tangle of misread blueprints and a very confused building inspector, and the whole table laughed. At some point, between bites, Denise slid a folded newspaper clipping from inside the folder and set it beside Desmond's plate. "Thought you'd want to see this," she said. He picked it up. Read it once. Local investor ordered to pay restitution in civil fraud case. Real estate license suspended pending further review. Bryce's name was right there in the third line. Printed cleanly in newsprint, the way bad news always managed to look so matter-of-fact. The civil suit had ended in a judgment. 3 clients had recovered a portion of their money. The commission's suspension had gone through. Professionally, Bryce Coleman was done. The fund was gone. The reputation was gone. The name that had once moved comfortably through investment circles and charity dinners was now the kind of name people mentioned as a warning. Desmond set the clipping down. "Okay," he said. Denise looked at him. "That's it? Okay? What do you want me to say?" "I don't know. Something more than okay." He thought about it for a second. "He made his choices," he said. They just caught up with him. Denise studied him for a moment, then picked up her sandwich. Fair enough. Patrice hadn't looked at the clipping. She already knew. She had known for a while, in the way young people who grow up too fast come to know things. quietly, without needing anyone to spell it out. She reached over and put her hand on Desmond's forearm briefly, just for a second. Then she pulled it back and picked up her drink. He didn't say anything. Neither did she. They didn't need to. He drove home alone that evening. The windows cracked, the radio low. The truck was new, bought 6 months ago. The Hayes Electrical logo on both doors, the phone number running beneath it in clean block letters. Near the driver's side door handle, half hidden unless you knew to look, was a small detail the sign painter had added at Desmond's request. A short row of numbers, stenciled in faded gold. His mother's birthday. The same numbers on the ticket. The same numbers he had played every week without fail, the way she had taught him. The same numbers that had been sitting quietly in his wallet. Already signed, already dated, already his. On the night Tasha had decided he wasn't worth keeping. He drove without hurrying. The evening was warm and easy, the kind of late summer night that settled into the shoulders and made everything feel a little lighter than it had been. He took the long way home out of habit, rolling through the older part of the neighborhood, past the hardware store and the barber shop with the faded red and white pole. And then he saw her. Tasha was on the sidewalk in front of the salon, turning her key in the front door lock. She was in her work smock, a tote bag over one shoulder, her movements slow in a way they hadn't been before. Worn down, not broken, but weathered. The kind of tired that came from working more hours than you planned and getting less than you expected. She heard the truck before she saw it. She turned. Their eyes met through the windshield. A second, maybe 2. No anger on his face, no satisfaction either. Just recognition. The kind that passed between 2 people who had once shared 11 years and a kitchen table and a daughter who wore her grandmother's watch. He didn't slow down. He didn't look away in a hurry. He just held her gaze for that one quiet moment, steady and without malice, and then the truck carried him forward, and he drove on. I hope you enjoyed that one. Be sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next story. I've picked out 2 more for you that I think you'll really like.